My brother Jake always called himself a prankster. Cockroaches in my food, cutting my belt before an award ceremony. I complained to our parents, but it was useless. At my wedding, during his toast, he pulled out a fake medical report. My brother didn't mean to hide his HIV diagnosis, he said tearfully. He just loves his bride too much. The room erupted. My father-in-law had a heart attack. My fiancée, CC, died. While rushing her to the hospital, I hunted Jake down. He shrugged. Just a joke. How was I supposed to know they'd be so fragile? My parents locked me in my room. He was testing your in-laws, they said. It's their fault for not trusting you. I jumped from the windowsill. Then I opened my eyes again. This time, I'd give Jake a taste of his own medicine. A blinding flash of a camera jolted me. I stared, bewildered, at the photographer directing our poses. CC, my fiancée, noticed my unease. She gently wiped the sweat from my brow, her face etched with concern. Leo, are you not feeling well? Honey, we're about to change for the next set anyway. Why don't you rest for a bit? I'll get you some juice. My head was spinning. It wasn't until she helped me to a chair in the waiting area and I saw the date and time on the digital wall clock that it finally sank in. I was back. I had returned to the day of our wedding photo shoot, exactly 1 week before the ceremony. The memory of that suffocating despair washed over me. I watched CC approach with a gentle smile as she handed me my favorite juice. In that moment, my resolve hardened into steel. This time, I would not only protect our happiness, I would make my brother understand the true cost of his jokes. The wedding day arrived. The venue was even more lavish than before. We had invited a few popular influencers to livestream the event, sharing our joy with the world. As the makeup artist made final touch-ups, Jake burst into the room, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Wow, bro. Quite the wedding. And you didn't have to spend a cent. Really making the family proud. He leaned in conspiratorially. And CC? Damn. Not only is she gorgeous, but she didn't even ask for anything. Just showered you with expensive watches and cars. I noticed her chest looks even bigger today. Guess you've been working hard to keep her happy in bed, huh? He sighed dramatically. I don't get it. We came from the same parents. How come you get all the luck with women? You've always had girls throwing money at you. Our father, Arthur, who had followed him in, chimed in with a greedy grin. Don't be stupid, kid. The money your brother saved can go to you. And you like his car, right? Just take it. Anything you want in the future, just ask. CC's family is loaded. It's all in the family now. When it's your turn to get married, they can pay for the wedding and the house. We can't let you get the short end of the stick. Jake's eyes lit up. Just then, CC walked in. Her face darkened as she overheard them, but for my sake, she said nothing. My whole life, Jake had spread malicious lies about me, and my parents had always shown blatant favoritism. I'd swallowed my anger for years, but not this time. I glared at Jake, my voice rising. Did mom and dad only teach you how to spew garbage? You're jealous because you're useless. You have hands and feet. If you want nice things so badly, go be a gigolo. You want us to pay for your wedding? Maybe start calling us mom and dad instead. They froze. I had always been the compliant, easygoing one. My outburst left them speechless. After a long pause, Jake finally found his voice, sputtering, "It was just a joke, man. Why are you being so sensitive?" He sneered. "Besides, I wouldn't want your life anyway. You're just marrying into her family, a kept man living off her money. Everyone knows it. People are going to look down on you. It's pathetic. Really. Who knows? Maybe one day CC will get tired of you, find a new boy toy, and kick you to the curb." Before he could finish, my hand connected with his cheek in a sharp crack. Even if I am marrying into her family, CC and her parents treat me with more respect than you ever have. You're the leech here. Don't project your pathetic ambitions onto me. The commotion drew a crowd. Jake, clutching his reddening cheek, was overcome with shame and rage. He shouted, "You have the nerve to say that? You think you're so clean? CC's family has been nothing but good to you, and you're still cheating on her behind her back. You even sleep with men. And the most disgusting part is that you contracted AIDS and hid it from her. You're a sick freak." A hush fell over the room. Even the hotel staff paused, their eyes fixed on me. In that moment, I became the monster he described. Everyone believed him, after all, who would lie about something so vile on his own brother's wedding day? But that was Jake. He never knew where the line was. It started small, fake cockroaches in my food, rubber snakes in my bed. When I stopped reacting, he escalated. Once, he snuck into my company dorm, covered himself in fake blood, and lay on the floor. When my roommate and I found him, we screamed and nearly called the police. He jumped up yelling, "Surprise!" My roommate was so freaked out, he had me kicked out. Another time, during an important video call with a client, he burst in dressed as a masked robber, holding a toy knife to my back. I lost the deal, and almost my sanity. But Jake just grinned. "Come on, bro. You're always so stressed. I was just trying to make you laugh." My parents always backed him up. "Jake was just cheering you up," they'd say. "Can't you take a joke?" My father would add, "You're the older brother. Be more tolerant. Now apologize." Because of their so-called good intentions, I lost not just a job but my dignity. I became a joke among my colleagues. Thinking of that, a cold smile crept across my face. I slapped him again, harder this time. "I've put up with your crap for years, but did you forget what day it is? How dare you run your mouth like this today?" Some relatives, aware of Jake's behavior, tried to intervene. "Come on, Jake. You're always joking, but this is too far, especially today." Seeing that some people were siding with me, Jake's anger flared. He pointed a trembling finger at me. "I'm not a kid. You think I'd say this without proof? I know everything he's done, and deep down, he knows it too." Cece's expression wavered but she stood firm. "Jake, I don't know what's gotten into you, but I know Leo. He wouldn't lie to me." Her friends murmured in my defense, giving me strength. "You said you have proof," I challenged. "Then show it. Otherwise, get the hell out of my sight." At that, our father Arthur exploded. "You bastard. Haven't you embarrassed us enough? Why did we ever have a disgrace like you for a son?" Our mother Helen jumped in. "Jake is just trying to help you. It's already out in the open. Apologize to Cece and her family before it's too late." I laughed coldly and pulled out my phone, opening the live stream. "You see this? There are influencers here broadcasting this to thousands of people. If you can't produce proof, the whole world will know you're a liar." Seeing the stream of mocking comments, Jake's face twisted with rage. "Fine. You asked for it. You want proof? Here's your proof." He pulled a folded document from his bag and held it up. "A friend of mine at the hospital gave me this. The diagnosis is right here, HIV positive." He smirked. "There's your proof. Try talking your way out of this one." The audience gasped. Online comments flipped instantly. I stared at him, my voice trembling. "Jake, where did you get this? Are you trying to destroy me? You know I've never even held another girl's hand before, Cece. How could I possibly have something like that?" He ignored me and turned to Cece, tears streaming down his face. "Please don't blame my brother," he sobbed. "He only did these things because he was jealous. It's all my fault. He really loves you. He promised he'd get treatment." The crowd murmured with sympathy. Cece just stared at him, unimpressed. She pulled her hands away and looked at me. I shouted toward my parents. "Are you just going to stand there and let him do this? Are you trying to ruin my life? Say something." They exchanged a look. Then Arthur roared, "Shut your mouth. We have no son as vile as you. It's bad enough you were reckless, but to get a disease? You've brought shame on us." He turned to Cece. "If you still want to marry our son, we won't stop you. But we're keeping all the money and gifts." They played their parts perfectly. At first, I thought Jake was just jealous, but after dying once, I knew the truth. To them, I was a tool, a pretty face to swindle wealthy women. I took a deep breath and said calmly, "Brother, why don't you bring that report a little closer? Let everyone see whose name is written in the patient field." Jake froze when I spoke. His smirk faltered for the first time, the confidence in his eyes replaced by a flicker of unease. The guests leaned forward, eager to see what would happen next. I stepped closer, my calmness unsettling even to myself. It was as if all the pain, humiliation, and fury I had endured for years had condensed into something sharp and precise. "You wanted proof," I said quietly, my voice carrying through the hall. "Then let's make sure everyone sees it clearly." Jake tried to pull the paper away, but I was faster. I snatched the document from his hand and held it up toward the cameras and the livestream audience. "Here it is," I announced, unfolding it completely. "Let's read the name written on the top." The crowd murmured. The hotel lights reflected off the glossy paper as I turned it slightly toward the screen. There it was, in bold black letters under the patient information line, Jacob Davis. My brother's name. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then the air erupted with gasps and shocked whispers. The influencer's camera zoomed in, the audience watching in real time as the truth unfolded. Jake's face drained of color. That's not mine, he stammered. You must have forged it? I asked, cutting him off. Funny. That's exactly what you did in my last life. You forged my name on your report and spread it like wildfire. I took a deep breath, keeping my composure while every nerve in my body screamed for revenge. Everyone here heard what you said. You told the world that I was hiding an illness from my fiancée, that I was sleeping around. But this, I held the report higher, this says otherwise. You were the one hiding it. You were the one lying. A reporter from one of the influencer channels shouted from the back, show the signature. I unfolded the bottom part of the report, exposing the hospital's stamp and Jake's own scrawled signature. My brother lunged forward, but several guests stepped between us. Give that back, he yelled. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I said coldly. You wanted to ruin me because you've always been jealous. But what you didn't expect was for the truth to bite you back before you could finish your act. Arthur, our father, was the first to recover his voice. That's ridiculous, he barked. Jake doesn't have any illness. You're just trying to twist things to embarrass him in front of everyone. CC stepped forward then. Her face was pale, but her eyes were steady. Mr. Davis, she said formally, the hospital stamp is visible, and so is Jake's name. Are you really going to deny something that's in front of hundreds of witnesses? Arthur's mouth opened and closed like a fish, no words coming out. Helen clutched her pearls, her expression one of trembling shock and confusion. For once, they didn't have a script to follow. Jake began to laugh, a hollow, hysterical sound. You think you've won? He spat. Even if it's true, who's going to believe that? You're just good at twisting things around. You're always playing the victim. You'll make people feel sorry for you, like you always did when we were kids. I let him rant, watching the desperation grow in his eyes. The crowd that once pitied him was now whispering about his deceit. The comments on the live stream scrolled faster than I could read them. The brother forged it himself? He tried to ruin the groom on his wedding day. Karma just hit him live. One of CC's uncles, a stern man with a military background, stepped forward. Young man, he said to Jake, you owe this couple an apology. This is defamation, and there are witnesses. You could be sued for this. Jake's breathing quickened. You don't understand, he muttered. I didn't mean. But CC cut him off. Her voice was calm, yet filled with restrained anger. You didn't mean to what? To accuse my fiancé of a deadly disease in front of our guests? To destroy our lives for your amusement? Her words struck him like bullets. The wedding hall had turned into a courtroom, and Jake stood trial before everyone. I didn't feel joy, only a cold, quiet satisfaction. This was the moment I had longed for, the moment I could finally make him see what his cruelty had cost. Get out, I said. He blinked. What? I said, get out of here before I have you arrested. You've embarrassed me enough. You've embarrassed yourself more. Jake's eyes darted around the room, searching for our parents' support, but even they seemed paralyzed by shame. He shoved past the crowd and stormed out of the hall. The music had stopped long ago. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Then CC's father cleared his throat. Perhaps we should take a short break, he suggested diplomatically. The guests murmured in agreement, dispersing in small groups to discuss what had just happened. I sank into a chair, my pulse still racing. CC knelt beside me and placed her hand on mine. Are you okay? She whispered. I nodded slowly. Better than before. But this isn't over. Her brow furrowed. What do you mean? Jake doesn't stop when he's embarrassed. He'll try again. And next time, he'll be even more dangerous. She squeezed my hand. Then we'll deal with it together. That night, after the guests had left, I sat alone in our hotel suite, staring at the city lights outside. My mind was a storm of thoughts. The first time I had lived this day, I had died a broken man. But now I was back, armed with knowledge and fury. I had a second chance, and I intended to use it. The next morning, I met with a private investigator I had quietly hired days before. His name was Miles, a calm and meticulous man who had once worked in law enforcement. I found what you asked for, he said, placing a folder on the table. Inside were photos, documents, and transaction records, evidence of Jake's financial mess. Gambling debts, loan sharks, fake charity donations, all of it connected to him. In my previous life, I had been too blinded by guilt and love for my family to see the truth. Now, it was all clear. Good work, I said. Keep digging. I want every detail about where his money comes from and who he's dealing with." Miles nodded. "You'll have it in a week." As I walked out of the cafe, I noticed something across the street, a familiar figure standing beside a black sedan. Jake. His eyes were red-rimmed, his expression cold and bitter. He watched me like a predator sizing up its prey. When our gazes met, he smirked. "I should have known you'd stoop this low," he said. "Hiring spies? What happened to the brother who used to defend me?" "That brother died," I said flatly. "You made sure of that?" Jake's smile vanished. "You think you've got everything under control, but you don't know half of it. You have no idea who you're dealing with." I raised an eyebrow. "Then enlighten me." But he only chuckled and got into his car. "Enjoy your little honeymoon, Leo. I'll see you soon." The following days were deceptively peaceful. CC and I went through the motions of final wedding preparations, but the shadow of that confrontation lingered. My parents avoided me completely, though Helen sent a single message: "You should have kept your mouth shut. You've ruined our family." Ruined our family. As if it hadn't been shattered long before. 3 days before the wedding, Miles called again. His voice was tense. "Leo, I think you should see this in person." I met him in his office. He handed me another folder. Inside were screenshots of text messages, emails, and receipts, all pointing to the same thing. Jake had been in contact with a criminal known for forging documents and manipulating online records. The same person who had likely helped him fake my medical report in the previous timeline. But there was more. Miles flipped to the last page, a wire transfer from Arthur's account to the same forger, dated just 2 weeks earlier. My blood ran cold. My father paid him? Miles nodded grimly. "It looks like your parents were part of it too. This wasn't just Jake's idea. They wanted to destroy your reputation completely." I leaned back in my chair, the weight of betrayal settling like lead in my chest. The truth was worse than I remembered. In my first life, I had thought my death was the result of despair and accident. But now I saw it clearly, it had been orchestrated. Jake, my parents, all of them had pushed me to that edge. And this time, I would not fall. That night, I returned home and looked through old family photos, memories that once brought warmth now only bringing pain. My parents had raised me to believe that love meant sacrifice, that enduring their cruelty was proof of loyalty. But now I understood. They never loved me. They only loved what I could give them. As I stared at those photos, I realized something important. Exposing Jake publicly wasn't enough. They needed to lose everything, their comfort, their reputation, their wealth. And I had the means to make that happen. By the time the sun rose, I had a plan. The next morning, I asked CC for a quiet conversation. We met on the balcony overlooking the gardens. She looked beautiful under the golden light, her expression soft but concerned. "I need to tell you everything," I began. "Not just about what happened yesterday, but about what's coming." She listened silently as I explained Jake's pattern of cruelty, the manipulation of my parents, the forgeries, the lies. When I was done, she didn't speak for a long moment. Then she took my hand. "If what you're saying is true, Leo, we can take legal action. My family has the resources to protect you, and to make sure your brother never hurts anyone again." I met her gaze, gratitude swelling in my chest. "Thank you. But I don't just want protection. I want justice." CC nodded slowly. "Then we'll make sure you get it." As she walked back inside, I remained on the balcony, the wind carrying the faint sound of wedding preparations below. I could almost hear the echo of Jake's laughter from the past, the laughter that haunted me through years of humiliation. But this time, things would end differently. Jake and my parents had written my tragedy once. Now, it was my turn to write theirs. The morning after I told CC everything, we sat with her parents at their dining table and laid out the plan. There were no raised voices, no dramatic gasps, only careful questions and a shared resolve to end the pattern that had ruled my life since childhood. CC's father listened without interrupting. When I finished, he clasped his hands and spoke in that even tone he saved for hard decisions. "We will not let anyone destroy our family. You will have legal protection. You will also have clear boundaries. If anyone breaches them, we act." CC's mother slid a notepad toward me. "Write down the places your brother knows you love. The coffee shop near your old school. The parking garage you used when you first started your job. The park bench where you proposed. He will go after your habits, not your secrets. Predators use patterns because patterns are easy. We will change yours." I wrote. When I was done, we created a schedule that kept me surrounded by witnesses and cameras. It felt strange to treat my brother like a threat that needed choreography, But that was the truth. In my first life he had treated my dignity like a chew toy. In this one, he would not even touch it. Miles called before lunch. "I think the hospital is ready to talk," he said. "They looked at the scan of the report you showed on the live stream. The paper stock and stamp placement are wrong for the date. Also, there is a metadata mismatch on the specimen number." I did not fully understand the technical description, but I understood what mattered. The document was not mine and the trail was sloppy. We met the hospital compliance officer that afternoon. She introduced herself as Dr. Celine Park. She was brisk and precise, a person who put out fires for a living. We reviewed what had happened at the wedding hall, and she showed us a redacted log. The only recent HIV test in their system that matched the digits on the document belonged to a Jacob Davis. The test was flagged because someone had attempted to access the electronic chart from an unregistered device at an unusual hour. The system blocked the entry, but not before capturing the IP and the device ID. Dr. Park had already forwarded the alert to hospital security. Then she looked at me and said something I had never heard from an adult when I was a child. "I am sorry this happened to you. We will cooperate with law enforcement. We will also send a letter confirming that you have no record of any such diagnosis in our system." I thanked her and felt a pressure behind my eyes that I refused to let fall. Sometimes justice is just someone competent doing their job. Miles had more. He slid a simple recorder across the table. "Last night I met the man your brother uses for documents. Name is Cade Miller. He was proud of his work. He bragged that your family kept him fed for years. He also bragged that he could scrub hospital logs if the price was right. But this time he cut corners. Cade thought he was recruiting me for more work. He talked about future orders and higher volume. He gave enough details to hang himself twice. We have voice and we have his handwritten ledger. We have timestamps, meeting locations, surplus stamps, seals, everything." Cece squeezed my hand under the table. Her mother inhaled slowly and then reached for her phone. She called a family attorney who specialized in defamation and digital forensics. By dinner we had a cease and desist drafted, a request for a temporary restraining order, and a plan to serve everyone who had participated in the smear. The attorney wanted us to stay quiet until the papers were filed. I agreed, but I asked for one condition. I wanted service to happen in public with cameras. I did not want humiliation. I wanted truth on the record. The attorney looked at Cece's parents as if to confirm that this was not a rash move. Her father nodded. "As long as we do it lawfully and safely." 2 days before the wedding we held our rehearsal at the venue. The staff had replaced the carpet after the chaos of Jake's scene. The florist quietly rebuilt the arrangements. It smelled like lilies and lemon cleaner. The officiant rehearsed his lines while we moved through the steps. For a brief moment I forgot the rest of it and saw only Cece in her simple rehearsal dress, hair pinned back, mouth curved into that small smile that always felt like home. Arthur and Helen arrived late and refused to look me in the eye. Jake was not with them. Arthur shook hands like a politician who had forgotten the crowd turned on him. He made sure to be seen talking to Cece's uncles and cousins. Helen clutched her handbag and wore the expression of a woman practicing grief she had not earned. During the break, Arthur pulled me aside and spoke without preface. "It is time to be practical. Your brother is upset. You embarrassed him. You embarrassed us. But we can fix this. We will make a statement that this was a misunderstanding. You will apologize for hitting him. In return, their family will not demand the gifts back. Also, when you and Cece sign for your new house, put Jake's name on the title as co-owner." He framed the demand as if he were offering me a seat out of the rain. I laughed quietly. That part of me that used to beg for a scrap of approval had no voice left. I looked him in the face and told him the truth. The house is not yours to touch. Nothing about my life is yours to touch. There is a process server at the door. In a minute he will come in and hand you and Mom legal papers. You will not rip them up. You will not make a scene. You will read them. If you violate them, you will be in court next week. After that, you will be careful with every word you say about me. If you are not careful, you will answer for it with money you do not have. He opened his mouth to bluster, but the server walked in with a calm professional voice and a stack of envelopes. Papers for Mr. Arthur Davis. Papers for Mrs. Helen Davis. Papers for Mr. Jacob Davis. Where is Jacob? Arthur tried to say he did not know. The server nodded, left Jake's envelope with the venue security chief under a lawful substitution rule, and documented it with his body camera. No explosions followed. Only a silence that tasted like metal. We returned to the aisle and finished the rehearsal. When it ended, Cece's father invited everyone to a quiet dinner upstairs. My parents declined. Helen said she was not hungry. Arthur said he had calls. I watched them leave with their heads close together and knew they were not thinking about my vows. They were thinking about an escape route. The dinner was simple. Bowls of soup, steamed fish, rice, fresh greens. Cece's cousins told stories about her, the ones that live in family air but never reach the outside world. The time she saved her allowance to buy her friend a winter coat. The way she calmed her little brother's fear of the dark by taping glow-in-the-dark stars on his ceiling. I listened and memorized details, the small proofs of a person's goodness. I made a silent promise to guard those things, the quiet acts that do not trend. That night I could not sleep. I lay in the half-light and watched the city work. Cece touched my shoulder. "Come with me." She led me to the kitchen, reheated soup, and set 2 bowls on the table. We ate in silence and then she handed me a folded page. "My vows," she said. I tried to write what I learned about love, not what I was taught. I read them and felt something uncoil in my chest. She did not promise a life without trouble. She promised to meet trouble standing up. I showed her my vows. I had rewritten them 3 times since the confrontation in the hall. At the top I had written 4 lines. "I am not a tool. I am not a joke. I am not your project. I am a man who will not be used." She touched the ink and nodded. "Keep that. Speak it like a promise to yourself." The next morning I met Miles at a small office downtown. He looked alert in the way a person looks after they have done something difficult and clean. He set a folder on the desk. "We have Kate on tape describing the hospital job, the fake seals, the fee schedule, the way he splits payments to avoid flags. We have your father's transfer and we have the checks your mother wrote to cover advances. We also have messages where Jake asked Cade to fabricate screenshots of an affair and a video of you using drugs. The video is a deepfake template. Cade bought the model from a forum and bragged about how fast it renders if he keeps the frames low. If they drop it online on wedding day, it will look real enough to fool the distracted. But if we get the source file and filters, it falls apart." He paused. "We also have Cade asking for a bonus if he could plant something at the venue. I told him we could not move cash that fast. He told me he would handle it with your brother and would produce a surprise at the ceremony." I felt my jaw clench. "What kind of surprise?" Miles shook his head. "It could be anything. A planted syringe, pills in a pocket, a phone loaded with messages addressed to a fake lover. He likes props. He likes crowds. He likes a public gasp. The fix for props is control of the backstage and a chain of custody for anything that touches you. The fix for digital is speed. We will have a clean room ready and a team to verify source timestamps on anything that moves. If they upload, we counter within minutes." We briefed the venue manager. He was a former event security lead who had seen his share of bad choices. He walked me through camera coverage, key card access, and storage cages. He put extra staff on the back corridors and required every vendor to check in with ID. He also gave me a simple rule. Do not be alone. Not in a hall, not in a restroom, not for a smoke break you do not even take. People like your brother do their best work in blind spots. We will not give him any. Midday brought the first ripple. A new account posted a blurred photo of me with a caption that suggested a secret boyfriend from college. Within an hour it had a swarm of anonymous comments. Within 2, the account posted a short clip that showed a man who looked like me at a club taking a small bag from another man. The clip ended before any context appeared. The lighting and angle were designed for speed and shock. Our attorney's office flagged the post, filed a removal request with platform abuse teams, and notified their liaison. Miles sent me a message. "Freeze that clip. Look at the ear. Look at the small scar above the eyebrow. Not yours." We simultaneously posted a simple statement from my account. The video is a manipulated composite. We have notified authorities. Do not amplify. Facts will follow in court. We attached a letterhead from the forensics firm that had already analyzed the frames. It did not trend. But the people who mattered saw it. By late afternoon, Dr. Park called. The hospital had filed a criminal complaint and a civil notice. She did not share details, but her tone carried a quiet charge. She also informed us that the attempted access to my supposed record triggered an alert from a second system at the insurer. That meant there were 2 logs and 2 paths for investigators. Redundancy is a poor friend in life but a good friend in crimes. The night before the wedding, Arthur sent a message after weeks of certainty that I would always fold. "You have one last chance to make this right. Family is family. Public war helps no one. Withdraw the papers. Apologize tomorrow before the ceremony. Announce that the report was a misunderstanding. We will make this go away. In exchange, we will give your brother a car and you can have peace." He signed it Dad as if the word itself were a contract. I did not reply. I forwarded the message to the attorney and then deleted it. Anything I needed to say to Arthur would not fit on screen. We rose early on the wedding day to a gray sky that felt like polished stone. The venue hummed with a calm that had taken dozens of professionals to manufacture. The coordinator rehearsed the timeline with military precision. The photographers set their light. The band warmed up in soft runs. I put on my suit and stared at myself in the mirror. The man looking back had the same face as the boy who once apologized for existing, but his eyes were different. They were not seeking permission. Security briefed us again. 2 extra guards at the service entrance. 1 inside the corridor that led to the bridal suite. 1 stationed near the soundboard, where a villain with a thumb drive could wreak havoc if left unsupervised. The process servers confirmed that Jake's envelope had been handed to him at dawn outside his apartment. He had taken it and thrown it into the street. The server had filmed the entire exchange and recorded the time. It meant he knew and did not care. CC came in with her veil pinned and her eyes bright. She did not ask if I was ready. She knew the answer. She just rested her forehead against mine and breathed in and out until our heartbeats found the same pace. Then we parted and walked to our places. Guests began to arrive in soft waves. The influencers had strict positions. They had agreed to a delay that allowed the venue team to cut the stream if anything unlawful occurred. That was a concession I had insisted on. We would not feed chaos for the sake of clicks. 5 minutes before the processional, a staffer brought me a small velvet box someone had left with my name on it. It was heavy. The ribbon was a brash red I had seen on Jake's car key fob. I did not touch it. Security photographed the box, ran a quick scan, and opened it with gloves. Inside lay a gold bracelet engraved with the initials of a man who did not exist, along with a folded note. I read the note without lifting it. See you after the ceremony. He is waiting. The address was a hotel room across town. It was bait aimed at CC if she saw it. The staff sealed the items in evidence bags and logged the time. I felt a wave of cold gratitude for every person in the building who had chosen care over gossip. The music swelled. I walked to the front with the officiant. CC appeared at the back, light sliding along the veil like water. People turned. The room filled with that sound a crowd makes when something good arrives. She reached me. We took each other's hands. The officiant began the words that usher thousands of people through a narrow new door every day. Halfway through the ceremony, movement at the back drew every eye. Jake stepped into the aisle in a dark suit he had not paid for. His cheek still held a fading mark from my hand. He was flanked by 2 men with lanyards and clipboards who wore the grave expressions of minor officials who enjoy drama. Jake lifted a folder like a relic. I apologize for the interruption. This concerns public health. He looked directly into a camera. For the safety of those present, we must pause this gathering. The men with him moved forward with the stiff confidence of people who expect doors to open. Security did not touch them. They asked for identification. The men showed generic badges and waved the folder again. The venue manager stepped into the aisle and held up a hand. Sir, please wait. We will verify your authority before you approach the couple. If you do not stop, we will consider this trespass. The manager's voice did not rise. It did not need to. Jake smiled and raised his voice. Leo is hiding a communicable disease. He is endangering the bride and all of you. I have a formal notice from the health department requiring immediate quarantine. He opened the folder and displayed a letter with an embossed seal taped to the corner. People shifted. An older aunt covered her mouth. That was the effect he wanted. Not proof. Pavlov. My heart did not race. I had seen this almost scene in a different life and died for it. I stepped toward the microphones and spoke into air that held its breath. No one here is in danger. You are not officers of the health department. You are actors in a stunt. You will take 1 step back and wait where you are. A woman's voice carried from the side aisle. That will not be necessary. Dr. Celine Park walked forward with 2 real officers and a venue lawyer. She held up her own folder and spoke in clear even sentences that cut the room back into focus. I am the compliance officer for the hospital named on that letter. The document the gentleman is holding is counterfeit. The seal is the wrong color and the text is lifted from a public advisory issued 5 years ago. The serial number belongs to a batch of flu notices, not isolation orders. Displaying it as real is a crime. She turned to the 2 men with lanyards. You are not on the list of health department contractors. She named the real department head, the real emergency protocol, and the real chain of custody for any action that would interrupt a private ceremony. Then she looked at Jake. And you are the person who attempted to access a protected medical record using a stolen credential. The officers stepped beside her as if the choreography had been rehearsed, which it had. Jake's bravado cracked at the edges. I turned back to Cece and held her hand as the hall rippled with whispers that sounded like paper tearing. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. I looked at Jake and spoke the simplest sentence I had. You are done. He did not move. He stared at me like a drowning man looks at a shore he cannot reach. Then he tried one more trick, the trick that had always worked at home. He looked for our parents. Helen stood near the back. Arthur was at her side. She lifted her chin and gave him the smallest nod, the one that told him to push. He drew breath to shout. Before he could form the words, the venue's screens flickered on. We had not planned a slideshow. This was not ours. A grainy clip appeared, the same dark club frame from the afternoon rumor, but longer. The figure who looked like me took the bag, turned toward the camera, and smiled. The image froze on that smile. A timer in the corner counted down from 10. The room held its breath again. Miles's voice came through the speakers from the booth. Apologies for the interruption. We are about to demonstrate how easy it is to lie with pixels. Watch the jawline, the ear, and the reflection in the mirror behind the subject. At 0, the clip will show the source layers and the alignment markers. Then you will see the unedited original. The numbers ran down. 0 hit. The clip peeled apart like a cheap sticker. Underneath was a stranger with a different ear, a different scar, and a different smile. Then the original came up in full. The man in the video looked nothing like me. The mirror reflection matched him, not the mask. The software overlay displayed a watermark with Cade's handle. A second later, a photo of Cade's ledger filled the screen with dates and payments. A note in his own handwriting named the client. Jake. The hall exhaled like a single body. People turned from the screen to Jake and back again, connecting the shape of the lie to the shape of the liar. Arthur took a step backward. Helen reached for his sleeve and missed. Cece leaned closer and whispered. Breathe. We are almost there. The officiant, steady and kind, looked at the room and then at us. Would you like to continue, or would you like a few minutes? I opened my mouth to answer, but a new voice cut across the aisle. It came from the doorway in a tone I recognized from a different kind of room. Jacob Davis. You are under arrest for identity theft, wire fraud, and criminal defamation. The officers at Dr. Park's side moved forward. The room tilted toward them as if gravity had shifted. Jake froze, then took one reflexive step toward the exit. It was too late. Cece's fingers tightened around mine. I did not let go. The aisle was full of uniforms and the murmurs rose like wind in trees before a storm. The doors at the back opened wider. Another figure entered, hat in hand, jaw set like someone who had come to finish a heavy task. It was the private investigator's contact from law enforcement, the one Miles had hinted might act if the hospital's complaint landed fast enough. His gaze found me for a flicker. Then he looked at Jake. This is where my second life bent into a shape the first never had. The officers stepped around the chairs and guests as if they were moving furniture, not breaking a pattern. The cuffs glinted, small and simple and absolute. Jake opened his mouth. I saw the old tricks line up behind his eyes. I saw the plea and the blame and the performative sorrow. I also saw something new. Fear that had no stage left to stand on. I drew breath to speak, to tell the officiant our answer, to tell Cece the words we came there to trade. But before I could form a syllable, Arthur raised his voice, raw and ragged in a way I had never heard. Stop. He did not say it to the officers. He said it to me. He held out both hands as if distance were a matter of inches and not years. We can fix this, he said. We are family. The word rolled out of his mouth like a currency he still believed could buy anything. I looked at him and felt the end of something old click into place. I also felt the beginning of something new press at the edges of my ribs, something like air after a deep dive. The officiant lifted his book. The crowd turned between past and present like heads at a tennis match. Miles leaned over the booth mic and said one last sentence in that calm voice that carried iron. For the record, the service is time delayed. The stream has not shown the last 2 minutes. You can finish your vows in peace, or you can let the past write the hour again. I met Cece's eyes. We had our answer. I opened my mouth to give it. And then the fire alarm began to wail. The fire alarm's shriek sliced through the hall, scattering the stunned silence into chaos. Guests leapt from their chairs, flower petals swirled in the sudden air from the opening doors, and smoke began to curl from a vent above the catering table. The officers immediately switched from arrest to evacuation mode, guiding people toward the exits. I pulled Cece close, shielding her as the crowd pressed forward. Her hand trembled in mine, but her voice stayed steady. This isn't real smoke, she whispered, squinting at the faint haze drifting from the vents. It's a distraction. Miles appeared at my side, radio in hand. Jake planned this, he said tersely. He must have someone triggering the alarm to create an escape route. The system was tampered with, someone bridged the alarm relay. Before I could respond, Jake shoved through 2 officers and bolted down the side corridor. His tie flew loose, and the folder clutched in his hand fluttered open, scattering false documents across the floor like broken wings. The officers yelled for him to stop. He didn't. I didn't think, I followed. The corridor twisted behind the ballroom, dimly lit and lined with service doors. Jake sprinted past the kitchen, knocking over trays and shouting curses. When I finally caught up, he had cornered himself in the loading bay, the open door flooding the room with cold daylight. He turned when he heard my footsteps. His chest heaved, eyes wild. You ruined everything, he spat. You had to humiliate me in front of everyone, again. I stared at him, exhaustion and anger mixing like poison. You did that to yourself. You forged reports, spread lies, and almost destroyed innocent people for attention. He laughed bitterly. You think they'll ever believe you're clean after all this? Internet memory doesn't die. People saw enough to doubt you forever. That's all I need. The words hit harder than I expected. He was right about one thing, the world loves scandal more than truth. But I had already learned that truth wasn't something given, it had to be built. Then I'll rebuild it, I said quietly. Brick by brick. Without you. The police cars screeched into the lot outside. Jake glanced toward them, his expression cracking into desperation. They'll lock me up, he whispered. You're my brother. You can fix this. Tell them it was a mistake. I did that once, I said. And it cost me my life. The officers stormed in, surrounding him. He didn't resist this time. As they read his rights, he looked at me one last time, not with hatred, but with something worse, the recognition that his games had finally ended. When they took him away, I stood in the open bay, the cold air burning my lungs. Miles joined me, silent for a while before saying, "It's over." "Not yet," I murmured. "My parents." He nodded. "We'll handle it." The following weeks unfolded like a slow undoing of every lie Jake and my parents had built. The investigation revealed everything, the forged medical report, the deepfake videos, the payments traced to Arthur's account, and Cade's testimony tying it all together. The story went public, but not in the way Jake had wanted. Headlines flooded social media. Groom framed by family, viral wedding scandal exposes forgery ring. Parents and son accused of coordinated defamation plot. Arthur and Helen's reputations collapsed overnight. Their friends distanced themselves, their social circles evaporated, and creditors began circling once the forgery charges touched their finances. Their house, once the pride of their wealth, went up for sale within a month. They tried reaching out, first through lawyers, then through letters, and finally with desperate voicemails. I didn't answer. I had spent a lifetime being the obedient son, the patient brother, the silent victim. I didn't owe them another word. Cece stood beside me through it all. When the legal storm calmed, we held a small private ceremony in the same venue, just the two of us, our closest friends, and the quiet hum of music. No live streams. No cameras. Only peace. When the officiant asked for our vows, I took her hands and said the same words I had written in the sleepless nights leading up to that day. I am not a tool. I am not a joke. I am not your project. I am a man who will not be used. And I promise, I will never let fear write my story again. Cece's eyes glistened as she smiled through her tears. And I promise, she whispered, that I'll always remind you who you are when the world forgets. When we kissed, it felt less like an ending and more like a beginning, one that belonged entirely to us. Months later, I stood by the lake where I used to meet Jake as kids. The wind carried the scent of pine and rain. I held a letter, unopened, with my parents' handwriting. It had arrived a week before. I didn't need to read it to know what it said, apologies wrapped in excuses, regret tied to pride. I set it down on the bench and let the wind take it. The pages scattered, fluttering toward the water before sinking beneath the surface. Behind me, Cece called out, her laughter cutting through the silence. "Leo. Come on, the car's waiting." I turned, smiled, and walked toward her, toward the life we had rebuilt from ashes. For the first time, I didn't look back. Because some stories don't end with revenge. They end with freedom.